Hey, it's Catherine T. Morris, founder and executive director of Boston Art and Music Soul Fest. We are truly thrilled to have you here this evening experiencing ARTDACITY special edition on the topic of marketing in the digital era, breaking through the noise. Big shout out to our sponsor, Symphonic Distribution, for providing an astounding, amazing panel of experts who are going to provide some true best practices, some gems, some knowledge about growing your practice as an artist, about using digital tools and resources to market and promote and center your brand, about storytelling through your work. So if you're not going to listen, shame on you. You should be listening. But before we kick off, there is a video we'd like to show you, courtesy of Symphonic Distribution. So hang on tight, get set, and get ready to rock and roll with us. Let's roll.
Symphonic provides thousands of record labels, managers, and artists with global digital music and video distribution to hundreds of streaming platforms, playlist pitching, release promotion, and a comprehensive suite of label services.
All right, thank you for tuning in. This is Octavius Crouch, also known as Doc Ock. I'll be your moderator for today. And I got this great panel here for the BAMS Fest. And today we're just going to try to educate you and teach you how to use some of the tricks of the trade. It's a new era, so how do you play the game now? The rules are constantly changing, so we're here to help you out. And I want to introduce my beautiful crew. I'm going to start this way. So I'm going to start with, who is that? Gina. And Gina, she comes from what label is that?
Entertainment One.
Or known as E1. Yes. So she's here today to join us. I'll let you introduce yourself, Gina.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I am Gina Miller, as I already said. I am Senior Vice President and General Manager of E1's Nashville division. I'm happy to be here. Can't wait to get into it.
Thank you. And we love that you joined us today. I'm going to go clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on how you see. My man down here in the corner is Thomas Cussins, and he's here to join us today. And Thomas, can you tell everybody where you're from and what you do?
Thanks, Ock. I'm Thomas Cussins, president of Ineffable Music. We have a label that's distributed by Symphonic, also an artist management, club business, and festival business.
That's right. He's here with the #1 team. No dig to Gina over there. I love her company as well. But we're moving right on. Thank you for joining us, Thomas. We're moving on to another great partner of ours. That's Leticia Johnson. Tell them where you're from.
I am originally from Tampa and now based in Austin, CEO and founder of the Visionary Rising Agency, as Ock said, which is a partner of Symphonic Distribution, managing artists and creative focused companies, helping them bridge the gap to the audiences they covet.
That's right. And thank you for joining us today. And last but not least, my man over here, Andrew. I don't want to mess up the last name, but it's beautiful. But Andrew, tell them where you're from.
Pleasure to meet everybody. I'm the digital advertising specialist here at Symphonic Distribution. I work out of the Tampa offices, and I pretty much handle every one of our clients' campaigns in regards to advertising, as well as our corporate efforts as well.
Yeah, he does a great job. And once again, I'm Doc Ock, and I'm the senior client manager at A&R here for hip hop and R&B at Symphonic Distribution. I'm just here to moderate, but I'm going to chime in a little bit, and we're going to have a little fun today, educating you about this business. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's say, hey, I'm an artist, and I'm preparing to release an upcoming album or EP. What are some basic components I would need to set up my release?
Okay, well, the first thing I would say before have we even established what type of artist you are, who who your audience is. Are we assuming that we've done that?
I do hip hop and R&B. I sing and rap. I'm from New York. Now that's too easy. I'm from North Carolina.
Okay.
And got a small fan base. I don't even have a real fan base. I got a couple numbers. You know, I'm streaming a little bit. You know, I want to put out a project. You know, what do I need to get it off the ground?
You definitely need to assemble some people that can help you. I won't even call them an official formal team, but you really need a team. You cannot do this alone. You can, but it would be way more arduous to do so. I would say the first step is assemble people who believe in who you are right now and who have a vision to understand where you are going.
Okay.
That would be step one. And then create strategy from there with those people.
Leticia, what do you think?
I 100% agree with Gina. I think that you really, really have to have a team and support staff to just understand what it is that you're doing. And then from there, you know, really, really be able to identify who you are as an artist and what you want to accomplish. I think it starts there, right? If you're someone, like you said, based in North Carolina, do you want to do local or do you want to explore out to different markets? The approach is going to really, really depend on how you, the artist, answers those first set of questions.
But can I say this?
Interesting.
Just kind of let me back up 1 second on this. I really do still believe, now I know a lot of artists do a lot of things a lot of different ways. I still believe today in own home first before you try to go to Rome. It's like, if you're in South Carolina, North Carolina, the Carolinas, you should own. Everywhere you can drive in your car, you should own. Once you can be... Okay. That's the way I feel. So that's what
I should keep it local. I should
keep it and grow from there and grow out from there. I mean, how many times do we know that people, you know, you start day one and you all of a sudden want to play festivals like in way away where no one knows you and you haven't established your fan base in places that you can actually have access to. So that's the...
Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to keep that in mind, especially when I come out with this album. But let me ask you, Thomas, I mean, what's some areas of marketing that you think me and other artists would be missing when it's time to promote the music?
Well, one thing I see a lot is when the music is done, you've got it properly mixed and mastered, and it's perfect to you as the artist. You then want to rush it out super fast. Like, you need to spend as much time planning and putting out the music and preparing and having a game plan for it as you spent making the music so that it gets the same attention it deserves. So, you know, I like to hit all bases and make sure you're not ignoring any platform. Sure, Spotify might be the sexy one right now, but, you know, spend some time on every single thing and putting together a plan for everything and do not rush. You know, you got your music, take your time with it.
Yeah, but everybody telling me the music hot and, you know, I want to make sure I get out there by Memorial Weekend. So you saying I need to hold off on the release before I just put it out this weekend?
Yeah, because if you uploaded it today, you might be able to get it out by Friday, but you missed being on release radar. You didn't have time to send it. You know, everyone left on vacation. You don't have time to send it to any editors, editorial or independent editors. You didn't, you know, there's no way anybody's going to cover it or get any visibility. So you're really only going to be hitting your very, very core fan base.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm going to keep that in mind. But, you know, Andrew, I mean, it's Memorial Weekend, man. I mean, what can I do to get this release out there so everybody can hear it? Because everybody about to party, I want to make sure they're bumping my music.
I mean, advertising is always a great way to get instant gratification, essentially. But it always goes back to understanding your audience, because if you're just throwing money at the wall, it's not going to get you the results that you're looking for. And just starting out, everybody thinks that they're worldwide. They're going to be everywhere. But the thing is you need to start small. And to go back on what Gina said, own home. Because if you start where you live and you monopolize there and grow outwards from where you live, and maybe, you know, if you're starting in North Carolina, take over the Carolinas. Then from the Carolinas, you can take over the East Coast. Everybody knows you on the East Coast. Then you get picked up by one of the festivals on the East Coast. Then next thing you know, you can start hitting up at LA and the West Coast and start branching out. And then who knows, take it global from there. But always start small, because your money's going to work for you when you know more of your audience than if you're just throwing it and seeing what works.
So Gina, how soon should our artists upload their music before the release come out then?
Listen, these promotional schedules are unforgiving. And I think they do vary. So I would say at the very least, whatever time, you really have to just give time. And so you got to set aside the right schedule, the right calendar to do all the activations and, promotional.
What's an activation though?
A campaign that connects you, your audience, the messaging all together. And it's a creative approach to keeping people top of mind to who you are and what you're about. That's what it is. It's a message. It's a message that should be memorable, and it's a message that should be measurable. If you can't measure it, you can't sustain it.
But I want to know, like, Thomas, how many weeks though? Is it 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 weeks? I mean,
I like 6, but if it's not 4, if somebody gives me less than 4, I can't promise that the song is going to do what it should do based on the size of your fan base. There's a chance it's going to underperform.
So why is that though?
Because A, it doesn't have time to, necessarily ensure you're going to be on all the algorithmic situations. B, I don't have time to drive over to Pandora's offices and sit in with them and pitch them to do a playlist cover for your song. I don't have time to send out, I want to hit up every single person I can in advance on the back end of the industry to let them know about this song. What tie-ins are there with festivals? Can we get this song for a festival announce video? There's more than just the playlist. But if you don't have 4 weeks and we miss release radar, and no one from Apple Music saw it, and it didn't show up on time on Amazon. We're just shooting ourselves in the foot, and you spent too long and you put too much into your work. As an expression of you and who you are, you got to give it a chance to really, now look, I have uploaded stuff with 72 hours, but you need to understand what you're doing and that you can weigh those things for yourself, right? But you're not going to have the help from the industry if you don't give yourself time.
Okay, so I know what I need to do. I need a good 4 to 6 weeks to set up this release, making sure I got the audio, the artwork, everything lined up. So like you guys said, I need a calendar. But how am I going to? What's wrong, Gina? Because
I'm like, we need 4 to 6 weeks on the front end, but you can't forget about what happens post, because
so what happens in the post?
That's 52 weeks worth of work.
Oh, okay.
Have to be prepared for the push.
For one song?
One song. Until we just got to ride till the wheels fall off. Every single day is day one, again, until you reach your goals. If you haven't reached the goal for that day, it's day one the next day. So you need about 52 weeks. It may not take that long, but a lot of these records, it's
52 weeks.
It takes that long.
Woo, I feel like a whole year.
Whole year, exactly.
I get paid bi-weekly, so I'm gonna keep that in mind. But I want to get. Can we talk about the playlisting? Because I want to get on there, and I want to build my whole campaign on playlisting because I need to get into Rap Caviar. I need to get into Apple. What do I need to do? Is that all I need? Leticia, what you thinking? Because I see you.
I think, playlisting is one small part of an overarching campaign. As Gina said, you really have to look at the campaigns and you really have to look at the overall strategy. So, yes.
Yeah, but I see the baby in there.
So yes, absolutely. Playlisting should be a part, right? But there are 3 ways to look at that playlisting perspective. If you're not having the lead time, as Thomas mentioned, for your team or even you personally to be doing that outreach to independent curators, as well as industry curators to get it on their radar, then the likelihood of you getting placed there is very, very small. But playlisting should not ever be the end all be all to any type of marketing strategy. It should be one part of a whole, right? And if you're doing all of the smaller things, right, preparing your strategy, making sure that you're uploading in enough time, giving your distribution partner, giving your marketing people time to actually work that for you, then the likelihood of you getting placed on the playlist is going to be a lot higher than you giving 72-hour lead time and not having that opportunity to actually talk to people. Because behind all of the playlists, right, there's a person making a decision to include it.
So how can I get noticed by Spotify or Apple to get onto the playlist? Like, what do I need to do?
Marketing.
Andrew, I mean, what do you think?
I mean, marketing is definitely a good start. Building your marketing drivers is the best part. Having a story behind your music, tell it, and provide every bit of piece of what you're doing in your plan to get to there. What are you trying to accomplish? That's
I want to be big. I want to be hot. I know I want to be big, and that's what I want to do. You know, and I want to increase my monthly followers on Spotify.
So one thing you can do, you know, is to collab with other artists, right? We've seen huge support. If you're not getting the attention of Rap Caviar right now, okay, what can you do? You could spend a huge amount of money on a marketing campaign, get a crazy number of pre-saves, upload it in time, and hopefully somebody sees it that likes it. You can send out a bunch of moonshots, I like to call them, when you're sending messages to people, you know, or, you know, hey, you have a connection to another artist. Can you tap into their fan base and then use their name when you pitch into editors? There are other ways to get to the lists, but if you put all your focus on lists that are out of your control, then you're just leaving your own career in somebody else's hands that you can't control. So you have to balance that with putting in the work on stuff you can actually manage.
So I need to create a demand and build up that foundation outside of the playlisting. So, but let me ask, I'm just wondering, like, do you guys think that traditional advertising still works, or does that even matter anymore in this digital space? And if so, like, why?
Of course.
Gina, what you think? Andrew. Okay.
Go ahead, Andrew. I'll come behind you.
It does, especially if you're strategic about how you do it. Obviously, don't just spend money to spend money, but a lot of these social platforms, Facebook, Instagram included, are pay to play nowadays. The algorithm doesn't work the way it did 5 years ago when you could post something and people actually saw it. Put in the efforts to notify your fan base to turn on notifications. Make sure that they're following you for those notifications. Because if they don't do that, the only way they're going to see anything you post is if you spend money. If you do the organic efforts, that's a positive step in the right direction to at least start advertising.
Okay. And Gina?
No, I certainly agree. I think that the digital space has given us a lot of creative opportunities to advertise, but they don't always need to forego or abandon the traditional, more conventional routes of advertising. I still think that there's some meaningful things that can be done in the old school way of doing it. I definitely do.
And you need a lot of touch points to cut through the noise. You need a lot of touch points. So if you posted, only if 10 to 20% of your audience saw that post, you hit them with some ads, you throw some posters up around town, and shoot, like sometimes I get a billboard just to drive home the point, not because the billboard's going to sell me as many units as the billboard cost, but because the billboard drives home the point that they've seen online and everything like that. Like, I need to pay attention to this. You need those touch points to cut through the number of releases that are coming out every week.
I still think, I was going to say, we touched on story, like, so quick.
Yeah. And
I really think that the artist is the best advertising. All these things are accents. They're peripheral that work together, and you need all of it. Thomas said even about the playlists and the DSPs, like you need all of the DSPs. You're going to need as much as you can do in any category. You're going to need all of that until you find out for sure if you've got a niche space that you can just abandon everything else and only focus in on it. That's a rare thing, though. The music, in my opinion, I say is the engine, and everything else to make the engine. You need the plane. The plane without the engine is just an engine sitting on the ground. So all these other things are the plane. Like you've got to figure out. It's like having a car. The music at best is any one part of the car. All these other things that we're talking about that you need would be the gas for the car. An engine without tires, without gas, without, a door on the car is no good. You really need all of it. So that's the analogy. I think it's a good visual to embrace.
I like that analogy, but I'm not going to lie. This sounds like a lot of money. So I would like, be honest with me. Like, what's the magic number? Like, what do I need budget wise to have a proper release? I mean, can I have an effective campaign with a small budget? Do you see it?
Yeah, I think that you can have an effective campaign with a small budget. All independent artists need to really, really focus on starting small, right? Starting local and growing global. I mean, your hometown, you don't need $5,000, $10,000 to compete, right? If you're getting very, very creative with how you're doing. Our magic number is artists need to be prepared for at least 2,500 over a 6-month period. And that's on the smaller range of the spectrum. And then you can at least kind of play that out across months, right? To activate the algorithm. And I hate getting really, really technical, but we've mentioned it a few times. If you're going the digital route, then you have to be continuous, right? It's consistent. Everything that you do is consistent. So if you're starting and you're stopping, and the engine forgets, right? Because you've started it and now it has to start all the way back over because you let it go for 30 days without kind of continue to grow it. So for me, that magic number, if you don't have a lot and you're trying to be really, really smart with how you do it, is at least be prepared to put $2,500 away for your campaign efforts, right? And you can save that up as you're spending money on the recording, as you're spending money on the engineering. If you plan it properly, that $2,500 becomes more controllable over the long term. And that's kind of on the smaller range. And you really, really want to focus on small, starting small, understanding, learning, throwing dollars toward test campaigns before just going all the way in.
I'm gonna keep that in mind. I mean, Thomas, you look like you got some thoughts to add, man.
Yeah, I mean, and if I only have $1,000 for the campaign, obviously, like LaTecia said, $2,500 is great. If I only have $1,000, I'm putting as much of it as possible towards content. I'm having a friend do a one-take music video, that's just a visualizer. I'm spending $500 and I'm cutting that into as many little different posts as I can. And then I'm going to spend $200 on some YouTube ads for that video that I did, and the other $300 on IG and Facebook. And I just start building my story that way until I can reinvest more. But it's really all about that, cohesive, consistent content. And as much as you can spend or put time and sweat equity into creating that content, the better off you'll be.
Yeah. But see,
so let me throw in a quick, here's my quick thought. Whatever you've decided to spend on production, if you can't double that for marketing, then just wait. How about that? Because a lot of times we get anxious to get our stuff out by Memorial Day and we only got $1,000. We know it takes money. It absolutely takes money. And yes, you can do a lot of small things for $1,000 that really won't matter by the time you get more money to do. I mean, it really, in the big scheme, it really won't. It'll move the needle maybe a little bit, but then you'll be starting back over to recapture the attention of all those people who you lost because someone else had more money, more time, more ideas that they were able to keep in front of your same audience, per se. So I would say if you only have that, it's really okay. It's okay to wait. And it's okay to work a job to have money while you're waiting to become the artist that you dream to be.
All right. So what I'm gathering so far. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
They always say practice patience. It's one thing in the music world that everybody should learn as their first thing is practice patience. You don't want to rush it. The world wasn't built in a day, and you can't expect that your release can be done in the same way.
So I'm gathering now I need to have a calendar, line it up 4 to 6 weeks or longer. Also, as Gina mentioned earlier, maybe 52 weeks, right? Leticia said, hey, I can maybe have 2,500. Thomas, you're saying maybe even 1,000, and I can chop these videos up. So, and Andrew, everything you break it down with the marketing, it makes sense. But I have a small follower count across social media right now. So it's like, where do I begin to even start to try to increase that following? Because even if I spend this money, I mean, how effective will it be?
So for me, right, it's about active engagements. You can have a small follower.
Meaning, what does that mean?
So followers don't equate to fans, right? You want active fans. You want active people who are going to engage with your content, right? And so you need to activate that central audience that you already have in order to create more people who are going to invest in you, right? To me, a fan is someone who's going to spend some money at the end of the day, right? And I call it the Russ theory, right? Russ is always in conversation with his audience. He's always in conversation with them. He's always asking them what they want, and then he's giving it to them, right? As an artist, an independent artist, and you have a small following, whether it's 150 people or 2,000 people, stay in constant conversation with them, start activating them, start engaging them, and then reintroducing them, right? Social media is great. It's a great tool. I love it. Gets your music in front of all of these people. Focus on the people whose attention you have, activate them through newsletters, through text messaging updates, right? And then you'll start to build it. They will tell their friends about it. They'll share it, and then it will start to grow organically. And then you can bring in kind of the paid advertising dollars to build out active audiences or lookalike audience to then run advertising toward them. But if you're an independent artist that has a small following, engage your existing following and the others will come, right? But you have to be doing things that are really, really cool and active and is going to get them talking and staying in conversation with them. What I see artists do a lot of times is pulling the Beyonce, releasing something and then, going away. Beyonce and Adele can do that, right? Because they're Beyonce and Adele. You can't do that. You need to release, talk about the release, get in front of the audience, talk to them, ask them.
But is that oversaturation though?
No.
But is that oversaturation? No.
I don't think it is, but I'll let Andrew take that one for me.
The thing about oversaturation is something that happens with advertising more so than it happens with organic posting. Organic content, as long as it's new and it's fresh, is always going to be something that people are going to soak up. Now, an ad is always technically the same piece. So if they get served it 2-3 times, they're going to see the same thing. But on your timeline, you have the ability to build a story. You can put behind the scenes clips out for the release. You can show you in the studio, building the release. You can show yourself writing the lyrics on a piece of paper in a bar, on a napkin.
So some more behind the scenes type of content.
Yes. It builds a story. It builds a community. It builds something that your fans can actually get those warm and fuzzies about and actually know who you are. It takes you back to the beginning where we started with knowing who you are. It really helps build that image and that story behind your song and gives people more to consume.
And LaTecia hit the nail on the head with the active fan. I mean, there's some people that have 10 million monthly listeners on Spotify and can't sell 1,000 tickets, right?
Why is that?
Fan, well, because I kind of think of it as like the Fat Joe phenomenon. Like everybody knows Fat Joe and his songs, but and if you saw him in the club, you'd be like, "Fuck yeah, this is great," but you're not going to pay to go see his show. One active fan who feels like they're a part of your team who's like going to go out and develop on the ground and moderate your fan group on your private Facebook page, one active fan is worth 1,000 casual fans in reality, because they're your advocate to the rest of the world. And that's how you can start small and really build a strong base that'll support you for 20 years and not just if you have a hit in that month.
Okay. But see, it's interesting because I'm just thinking, like, if my streams have hit a wall, because, you know, I put out something last month and I was working it up. Actually, it was a month and a half, you know, I've been working it, but it just seemed like the streams have kind of stopped. So it's like, you know, what can I do now to try to increase the streams on Spotify and Apple now? Do I need to keep marketing and try to run ads? I mean, what do you think?
I'm going to say a simple ask. Sometimes this is where all the creativity, all the marketing plans, back to the artists, back to having some ambassadors who will speak well of, you know, what you're doing and who you are. Just sometimes we need to take all the ambiguous, you know, overly creative things out of the scenario and just say, hey, I need you all to share this. Like, share it with 10 people, like give them a call to action. And I think that sometimes I see fabulous campaigns. Thomas, there were thousands of dollars spent, but there was no ask. So you're left like, well, what are we supposed to do with this other than process it and enjoy it? When sometimes all you have to do is say, I'm giving you all this greatness and fabulousness, but the last part of it is go do this. Share it with 10 people. Find a friend and share it with one person. Post it. Add it to your playlist.
Friends don't like me, though. My family not supporting me. You know, they want to shout out everybody else that's not their friend. But when it comes to my music, don't nobody want to support me. Nobody want to give me any love.
Well, then we need to start all the way back to ground zero and find you some fans. Figure out how to find your fans first.
Yeah, because I'm trying to get those numbers up. I mean, should I run ads? Should I do some third-party playlisting? I mean,
well, because here's the other point to make really quickly. The thing about any of it, the fact of oversaturation can't even really exist because it takes so many times for something to become a habit anyway. So it takes so many times before it's memorable and before it's ingrained and before we really connect to it. We can hear it the first time and it goes away. So I just think you just got to keep working the soil. Just keep working it, keep turning it.
Okay.
Gina, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, it's like a fan karma meter. If you just gave them a new song or a new piece of content or an IG live session, then you can ask them to do something. But if you need to build up the fan karma and then you have to redeem it by making an ask. And that works for any size audience.
Okay. So I got to get out here and start begging. So I'm gonna get to work. And I thank y'all for those recommendations. But I like what you said, Gina. There's a lot of successful campaigns, but can somebody give me an example or two of a successful campaign, whether it's a small artist like myself or a bigger artist that has done it the right way?
Sure. I mean, I can name off two that I've started lately. We can go with Gats is the first one to start with. He's actually taken tragedy in his own personal life and spun it into a way that works with his image and has built his career from it, essentially. I mean, he's gotten noticed by Microsoft and numerous other people. He's even making a local chicken sandwich. So it's one of those things that you take what you're given, and if, as they say, take lemons and make lemonade. Or if you favorite, make a lemon drop. But the thing is that that was definitely a person who's done well. Another one lately and still continues to reap reward from his efforts is Isaiah. He just got
Isaiah who?
Isaiah Huron. He just picked up to the playlist today. So it's one of those things that.
So and who's that guy, Isaiah Huron?
He's he's got a new track that came out recently called Self, and basically has been working that track over and over and over again. Every time something comes out, there's something new that he can produce. So even though the track is out a month ago or so, there's still been more efforts, whether it be another campaign or trying another campaign on a different place where we hadn't put any ad dollars in, or even just trying another ask for someone else. It just
a call to action.
Exactly. It just keeps working. As long as you keep,
I'm learning. I'm figuring this out now. Yeah.
Don't get lazy with your release. Just keep working it, because the more you work it, the more it'll work for you.
Well, can I ask the group? And it's a two-part question, because I'm trying to determine the best path for me next, because I'm looking at I'm trying to decide, should I go towards a record label or doing a partnership with a distribution? Now, if I'm somebody that has a small following, for example, let's say I got great music, but my budget is little and I have a very small following, should I try to start pitching my music to a record label who can take it to the next level, or should I partner with a distro and try to figure this out organically? Gina, what you think?
You know what? I think that understanding the end game would help you to understand which pathway you need to go. There are a lot of artists who absolutely have no desire to be part of a label system and structure. Then well, for various reasons. I think that, depending on the label, I would say it would probably be creativity, or the feeling that they lose a bit of their ability to be as creative and flexible as they desire. I think that there's an idea of wanting to be solely independent and want to do things your way, want to be entrepreneurial about it. And I think nothing is wrong with that. I do think that there is because I'm label and distributor, I do think that there's a place for both. And I can make probably a good case study about the different types of artists. And there have been some artists who've been independent, and I upstream them to the label only to stop with them and go, you know what? This is probably not a great idea. We probably need to go back to what we were doing. And that's not a distinction upon them or anything, no indictments here. It's just a matter of how people work. And the label function is a very different type of structure. Even when you give room for creativity and identity to remain, it's still a very different structure of working versus what we're seeing and what we're doing with our distributed artists and partners.
All right, that's an interesting point. And LaTecia, looked like you had some thoughts on this as well. I mean, what do you think? Because
I agree with Gina. I think it really does depend on the artist, right? And understanding that the label is a machine. And the right.
But I need that machine.
Hold on, the right distribution partner like Symphonic can give you that machine, but you still get the freedom of owning your creativity and owning your output. Within the label framework, you're more than likely, even if you're allowed to be creative, you're not going to kind of have that full control of your output and the timelines. So my advice to most independent artists is to create the machine yourself. And so that when you do get into a partnership with the label or get into those conversations, you really understand what your leverage is and what you need, right? The label, I'm an entrepreneur. I have a few businesses. I think labels are akin to banks or VC dollars, right? I have a company, I have an idea. I'm going to go to the bank to get a loan because I want them to help me take that to the next level. An investor comes along, they see what I'm doing, they want to give me money to take it to the next level. But it all starts with my idea, my foundation, my success. As an artist, you have to treat your artistry as a business, right? And so understanding the true opportunities and what your next steps are starts with understanding what you want your output to be. If you want to go to that next level, you have to identify what that next level is. You want to go to that next level? Great. Well, what does that next level look like for you? Is it performing all the time? Is it, getting sync music?
I want that exposure though.
You want the exposure. Okay. Well, I don't know if, probably the label format is going to be the best thing for an independent artist, because understanding, again, the label structure, you're entering into a situation in which you may not be the priority. And so now you have to work up to being the priority and getting the look, and you're pretty much starting kind of all over again. But now you're within this framework where, again, to Gina's point, it may not be the best space for you. If your only goal is exposure, you need to build a team that's going to help you to activate that.
Well, let's switch the roles. Let's say I do have a nice following, great music, and I do have a budget, and I do want to take it to that next level. It's like, should I stay independent, which I might miss my window to be a star, or should I take a record deal, but I risk giving up my masters? Like, what are you thinking, Thomas? Because you work with a lot of artists, so what you think? What would you do in this scenario with your artists?
Yeah, I mean, there is no one right answer, but speaking on my experience, I have clients that have sold millions of records and still have not made a penny off them because they signed major label deals with those records. And I'm talking about 15 years later. Millions of records, 15 years later, and they made nothing. However, those record labels put them on the map in a certain extent, gave them a measure of fame, right? And they were able to use that to push their career. And so you could say it was worth it in a way. So, a lot of it has to do with, do you want to be famous, or do you want to live the life that you have complete control of and you own everything and it's up to you? And then a lot of it has to do with, can the label, is there a full team around you? I've had situations where the A&R was super into the project and everything was great, but the rest of the label was kind of like, about the project. It didn't really work that well. I've also had situations where the entire label team, including the sync department, and all the way up to whoever's in charge, was really into the project. And then the label, instead of just doubling the size of the pie, they 10x the size of the pie. And then that label situation was worth it. But I would really, unless I felt 100% sure that this was the label team for me that could take me to the goals I'm trying to achieve, I would be very hesitant to give up my master, because that's your equity as an artist. And everything needs to be right if you're going to take that risk to give it up.
So really we have to define success here. I'm just going to say it. You knew I was going to interject somewhere. You have to define success for yourself, because every artist, they're first of all, let's debunk this idea that everything's apples to apples anyway. So stop. If you're comparing yourself right now to anybody, stop it. Stop it, because there are variables that are involved that you have no idea about, that's separating what you are seeing them do and get that you don't have yet, which will just make you crazy. So just define success for yourself and stay focused on the plan that you lay out for where you are and where you're headed.
I like that. Success. It's a relative term. I got to keep that in mind. And everything's been valuable. And that brings me to my last question. Now, Andrew, just want to pick your brain from a technical side. Like, what are some tools that I can use, I guess, to support my releases that I'm about to put out this year?
Well, from a digital standpoint, if you are working with a distributor or a label, they typically have access to something called Chartmetric. And this is
Chartmetric. Okay. What's that?
Tool. Basically allows you to input all of your intellectual property, your IP, into it, as that's your Spotify link, your SoundCloud, your Facebook, your Instagram, your YouTube, everything into there, including TikTok. And what it does is it pulls all of your insights, your chart data, your streaming data, your views, your anything that's connected to you, even hashtags. And it shows you everything that you could possibly need to know as far as where the people are, where your streams are coming from, how old they are, what countries they're coming from, if they're coming from different countries, which cities are popular. Because if you want to run an effective campaign, why are you going to want to just blanket an entire country if they're only coming from one particular part of the country? Just hit that city.
Okay.
So that tool is by far one of the best tools that I've ever come across. In addition to any of the short link creation tools for like pre-saves and landing page creation, whether it be Feature FM or Link to or Tone Den, they all have their own particular niche that they're good at, and they're great for helping people find your music when you have a release. Okay,
I'm gonna write that down. Chart metric, that's a good one. So, and one more. Is there any other one that I should be aware of? Anybody?
I think I have
chart metric. Oh, I'm sorry, Leticia. If you don't have chart metric, I mean, you can get insights and metrics socially because most of everyone's using social media. If not, there are several apps that can provide at least a basic idea of what's happening with the post that you're creating or the advertising that you're, implementing, et cetera, et cetera. So,
okay. And Leticia, it seemed like you had one to recommend.
Yeah. In addition to like Gina and Andrew said, chart metric, there are two that I think that artists should have. One, your website. Right. You absolutely need your website to take that traffic that you're getting across.
What's a website?
Don't that you're
We're not going.
I tell you, you're not ready. I just think if you're asking what a website is, you're not
you're not
friend.
No, because I'm on social media. I got Facebook and I got an Instagram. Why do I need a website?
And that's all really, really great. But we're living in a time where data is the new oil, right? And so you have to own your audience and you have to know them. So those tools are great. Social media, I say this all the time. I tell my own clients this. Social media is a tool. If Instagram broke down tomorrow, if TikTok stopped tomorrow, how are you going to reach your fans? Through your website, right? If you don't have a website, then you can't, right? So your website is where you tell your story as an artist, right? And so in addition to chart metric and understanding the data, you need to be able to have your own website and then some type of social media planning content tool that's going to allow you to get a little bit ahead of it so that you're not always having to constantly kind of be in it and just plan it out, right? Know what you're posting and what dates you're posting on what days you're going to be doing album content, on what days you're going to be doing personal stuff. Know that in advance and plan it out, and it makes the process a lot easier.
All right. Thank you. I love all this valuable information. And just to recap, we need to have a tight schedule. Make sure we put our releases out on time, weeks in advance, and also follow through weeks after. Not focus solely on playlisting. We need to do traditional marketing, advertising, build with fans, ask for call to actions, ask your fans to support, share that link, have a website, like Leticia said, and try to decide what is the end game, as Gina recommended. If I am about to choose a record label or a distro partner, I love all the feedback from the panel today. It's been wonderful. Unfortunately, we come into a conclusion now. So anybody have any questions, make sure to follow these great panelists. We're here to answer any questions. I want to thank Gina for coming through, my man Thomas, Leticia, of course, this guy over here, Andrew. But I thank everybody for joining us today. Be sure to share this, and we look forward to connecting. I can't wait to speak to everybody on here today. Hopefully we can connect again soon, all right? But I thank everybody. Y'all have a wonderful day. Take care.
Take care.